a very important milestone. First, because for the first time, perhaps the most important democratic institution in the world is seeking to hold the Museveni regime to the same standards as other governments. Because up till now, there's been a kind of scandalous exceptionalism with regard to the Museveni regime. The international community tended to turn a blind eye, look the other way, and allow him to steal elections, allow him to commit genocide in the north, allow him to steal and loot the country and the Congo, allow him to have these so-called torture chambers called safe houses, all these things without accountability. But for the first time in the U.S. congressional directive, the Secretary of State is being mandated to monitor preparations for free and fair elections in Uganda, to monitor if the election commission is truly independent, to monitor if the register of voters is verifiable and open, to monitor if there's no intimidation, if there's press freedom, if there's freedom of movement, if the candidates and political leaders are secure or whether they are being threatened. These have all been itemized and they are being monitored. The first report came out just last week.
Yeah.
So this is a very important shot in the arm, a very important expression of solidarity with the Ugandan people coming from the U.S. Congress. We appreciate this enormously. It makes a big difference.
I don't know whether you are aware, but the Ugandan government has reacted. It's on record, at least through the information minister, Princess Kabakumba Masiko, who actually said, as far as the report is concerned, quote, nothing new, unquote. She even adds that its contents were the usual banter from Western governments. In fact, she says the problem that they have, the government of Uganda, is that of the methodology that the State Department used to arrive at those conclusions.
Well, this is because for the first time they find that the shoe is on the other foot. The report by the Secretary of State is very factual, is very systematic, it records objectively the things which have been happening. It records the attempt on my life, for example, last December on the Gulu-Kampala road.
They say that was an accident.
Well, no, they don't say it's an accident. They say
it happened. It was an incident.
Exactly. An incident, of course, was an incident in very suspicious circumstances. They call for investigation. It's never been investigated. I call for investigation. The report says to this day, no credible investigation has taken place and that the police cannot do such investigation. The report speaks of the lack of independence of the Electoral Commission. What we in Uganda have been saying all along. It gives examples of malpractice and fraud during by-elections in Uganda. It speaks about how opposition women have been beaten up, they have been taken into custody for no good reason. It's very factual, it's very specific, it's very systematic. I would want to hear Minister Otafire contradict, not in general terms, but in specific terms, what the report provides.
In the meantime, let's go to the lifeline of the show, which of course are the telephone callers. There is a Major Bright Rwamirama, who I think is a Ugandan Minister of State for Agriculture. Good evening, Major Bright. Good evening, Major Bright. Can you hear me, Major Bright? I'm afraid I do not hear Major Bright. What about Beitese, David Beitese from Uganda? Are you there?
Yes, I'm there. I can listen to you very well, although the sound is very poor.
The sound is very poor. But could you please...
Yes, I've been catching a few lines here and there.
Could you please ask your question, please? Be very brief, at least 1 minute.
Yes. I'll ask my colleague, Olara Otunnu. There have been a lot of talk about the elections being rigged. And of course, we have seen it in 2001 and 2006. And essentially, it is not the Election Commission that is doing it, but it is the President who is dictating what the Electoral Commission is going to do. Now we are coming to 2011 in February when we should be having our elections, and definitely there is already a lot of rigging that is going on. You, as one of the big persons on the international scene in Uganda and also out of Uganda, what steps are you taking to ensure that this rigging is either eliminated or brought to a minimum so that the people of Uganda feel that they have participated fully in this electoral system?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's go to Mr. Rwamirama before you you respond to the question. Good evening, Major Bright Rwamirama.
Good evening, Ndugu Shaka.
I am terrific. How are you today?
I'm okay.
Yeah, sorry for the technical difficulties that we experienced briefly, but I'm glad that we have you on the line.
Yes.
What is your question, sir?
Yes. I want to comment that when you want to aspire for these big offices, we should be truthful. For Mr. Olara Otunnu to say that education has gone down is really very unfortunate. He must take stock. But before universal primary education, we had only 2 million children going to school. But as soon we introduced universal primary education, we had people going to school up to 8 million people. And so is for secondary education. We had one university. We have now more than 30 and the education hub for the region. And so, for him to say that education has gone down is really very unfortunate. Is that we are looking at the numbers, and we are also looking at the quality. Our doctors are recognized internationally, even in USA, where he's talking.
I see.
Thank you.
I see. Thank you very much.
May I reply? First, the last question. It is true, as I said earlier, that enrollment has gone up, both for primary and secondary schools. But enrollment is not instruction and education. Enrollment simply means you are attending, you've turned up. The whole point I'm making is that there is no quality instruction being given to these children. These children will not be able to move from their primary school and become something that is important and productive. That's the point I'm making. Similarly, he speaks of the youth and the graduates. I don't know. My impression is that the quality of the universities are very uneven. They are not being carefully regulated. But more important, the Museveni government has no policy and program for the Ugandan youth. They are entirely on their own. Most of those who leave university, there are no employment. Employment is done through a system of who you know, which family you come from, and most of them are looking for jobs on the streets or running the motorcycle, the border arrangement. So it's a question of the quality, not the number of children attending school. With regard to the first issue raised, the first questioner, what he describes is accurate. I agree with it. That is why, if Mr. Museveni is left to his own devices, we know exactly what he'll do. We have to compel him to organize free and fair election. That pressure must come largely from within Uganda, but also from the international community, which is why, in that context, the congressional directive specifically focusing on holding a free and fair election in Uganda is so important. It is the reason why we say the current election commission will never organize next year's election in Uganda. It will not happen. Take it from me.
Why?
We will not accept it precisely because that election commission is firmly aligned with the ruling party. It has become part of the rigging machine, the vote rigging machine of the ruling party. So we'll never accept that it should organize next year's election. By the way, the congressional directive report speaks of the lack of independence and the compromise role of the election commission as well.
So what are they going to do about it? Because at least in the case of Nigeria, the State Department has been very, very clear. They called, for example, for the stepping down of the chairman of the Nigerian Electoral Commission, Professor Maurice Iwu, and in fact, this was followed by a directive from acting president Goodluck Jonathan. Is that what you want in as far as Badru Chigundi is concerned in Uganda?
Well, I applaud Assistant Secretary Ambassador Johnny Carson for the firm principle